Where'd they go?
They went to Arizona for the spring training, but then also, Andrew had, tournaments, baseball tournaments down there. And their last tournament was last night. I don't know how late it went, but they were not gonna get home as early as they wanted to today. So he said he wouldn't make it. Go ahead and push your green button. Started. Yes. So, I wanted to bring everyone together. Oh, let me see Harold's.
Before you get started,
Yes.
Mrs. Mayor, I'd like to point out to the rest of the board that tomorrow's meeting includes the swearing in of the police officer and Carl's report as usual. But due to the fact that they're both starting at 6 o'clock in the morning, right after roll call, I'm gonna make a motion to dispense with the regular order of business and allow the swearing in of the new officer and Carl's report to occur then.
Absolutely.
To allow them to get over to their families at least an hour. Carl's report, as you know, is pretty short to begin with, seldom too many questions. And he lives in Keensburg.
Oh, he does?
Or close, he has a Keensburg mailing address, I know.
No.
And there's no reason to keep him for what could be a lengthy meeting to make a 5-minute report.
Yep.
I think it's just a courtesy thing to our police chief and to the new officer as well, especially in light of the fact that they're on training, doing 12-hour days, so on and so forth.
Well, the subject we're talking about tomorrow, do we want to really let them go?
Excuse me?
So the subject we're talking about tomorrow, do we really want to let them go?
Well,
You mean, are you worried about it getting ugly in here?
it depends. What do you think of the
I thought there was a lot of people were gonna be here tonight.
And I just want to make you aware of that procedural motion I'm going to make ahead of time, so you don't be surprised or misunderstands it, or wants to know why. That's the whole explanation.
I think that's a fabulous idea. Thank you, Larry.
We also have the Gross Wind Technologies presentation from Max, as well, an update on that. They're gonna be here for.
They're going to be here, although Max is just going to be in the audience to answer any questions that may come up. He doesn't have a
Oh, he's not gonna
presentation.
say anything?
He doesn't have a presentation per se.
So you really need to wait till David's report then.
Yeah. Well, and to what David said, it might be a good idea to wait for all those unnecessary or unanswerable questions from the audience at this point. I don't know.
Yep.
So that was, anyway, so we'll leave that one as is, but
Yep.
I think that's a great idea. Larry, thank you. Oh, wait just a second. Harold's on his way. You guys don't mind?
And here till we run out of meatballs.
So you made these by hand last night, yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
They're awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm making my hand all in.
You got a little spice in there.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah.
The sausage and the meatball.
Can you taste it? It's good.
It's fantastic. Thank you.
This isn't the hot variety.
You like the spicier?
Well, I do, but my wife doesn't, so this is what we get. Yeah, they're good. I'm not suicidal.
Mary, thank you for the salad.
Certainly.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for the bread. Yum. Smells garlicky.
Better late than never.
Oh, you brought bread? Oh, man, I didn't give you bread.
Yeah, there's plenty, and I don't want to take any at home, so dig in.
Yeah, I took what too. We're good.
Matthew said if it's not eaten tonight, it'll be eaten tomorrow. Everybody.
You know where the house is, right? You know where the house is? For breakfast, lunch.
Oh my God, you sound like my sister.
I made a
I bet I don't look like her.
a huge pot of bacon cheeseburger soup yesterday. And the boys were like, wow, Mom, that's a lot of food. I'm like, yeah, because I'm not cooking the rest of the week, so have a nice time.
Make it last.
Well, my sister eats dinner for breakfast.
Mm. We'll often do breakfast for dinner.
That I can do.
Yeah.
I just can't see dinner for breakfast, sorry.
You know, I agree with that.
We worked at 6 o'clock at Otters, and I bought her one of those Zeta pasta dishes from Olive Garden.
Mm-hmm.
She took it to work. Oh, she went to work at 6, I went to work at 7. So I'm putting my stuff in when I get to work, and I couldn't find her pasta. And I thought, well, somebody took her pasta. And I'm looking all over the fridge, running around everybody, asking everybody who took her pasta. And I went and told her, I said, I think somebody took your pasta. Oh, no, I ate it this morning. At 6 o'clock in the morning, you ate that?
All the garlic. Hate to each their own.
Gee. She'll eat fish no more. People used to get mad at her. Really?
Yeah, I can see fish
Yep.
coming in there, feeling the smell in the morning.
See what
Waking up to that after a late night or something, you're just like, oh, no. In Germany, that's where they have fish, all the types of fish.
Yeah.
In the morning?
For breakfast,
When
yeah.
we go camping, I'll grill up fish that we have caught the previous day for breakfast and eggs.
All
All the
right.
boys love it.
I have the eggs.
They have herring, they have salmon, they have all that
Mhm.
stuff laid out.
When I go camping, there's always a continental breakfast down in the lobby.
Yeah, not our camping. Oh, we just recently graduated from a tent to a
Where do you
camper.
go camping at?
There we go.
I was gonna say, that sounds familiar when we go places.
Mary, were you able to recoup some of your lost data? Don't bring that
Out of
up.
voice, Spencer.
You know, nobody can figure out what's happening when, to do the chart of accounts, you've seen our account codes, they're this big long string of numbers. You have to identify the first set, then the second set, then the third set, then name it. Then you have to, like if you're drag and drop, you have to attach all of those sets to make the chain. We had that all done, and got a notification that there was an update to run. So I had IT run the update, and it corrupted all the data in the chart of accounts.
Perfect.
So, they backed up from a previous version and it was fine, but when I go on my computer, I can work for about an hour,
Oh,
and then it locks me out. And I start getting all these weird error messages. So I don't know if it's something weird in the version of, because my
Computers are gonna make my life easier.
thing client still runs Windows XP. I'm wondering if that might be it.
Okay.
But, so they're working to try to figure out what it is. But otherwise, you know, we're still able to create tables in other platforms, getting real close to being finished with all of the payroll data entry. Charlene's starting on utilities, Devin is starting on court.
Utilities is the largest module.
Utilities is a big one,
Oh, yeah.
so that and the cash handling piece, so. But we also have a meeting scheduled with, First National Bank, because they're closing. We've talked with them, we talked with, Bank of Colorado. And we just want to get an idea of exactly what our fees are with each moving forward to see what would be the most economical.
So with Bank of Colorado, if you just send them a couple of statements, would they be able to evaluate that and be able to say, based on the the statements you gave us, these are the fees that we would?
They haven't asked for statements, but.
Well, I asked because
Yeah.
Brian called me, it was Friday evening, last Friday evening. So knowing that Troy was leaving on vacation, I said, I'm not even gonna bring it up until he comes back.
Oh, okay.
So that's what he had asked for was,
Okay, yeah, we can send them statements. One thing that we found out though that's interesting, and I put it in the Dropbox and I don't know if you've had a chance to read it. There's a new bill related to people's personal information and the safeguards that you have to take. That made us start thinking, even though the Assist software has the capability to do all the cash handling and the online payments and the payables, so does our bank. And we're gonna check and see what kind of a cost trade-off there would be between having them process some of that and store that data and then be responsible for the security related to it, as opposed to what it would cost us to update our security, to be able to eliminate that liability from the town. If it's close to a wash, we might go that way. Because the bank is really encouraging us to use a check reader, process all the checks, and then they'll be transmitted to the bank automatically. And we would only have to deposit cash when we have it. So that would give us a better cash flow, and we wouldn't be holding things here for such a long time. So we'll see how that plays out.
It all sounds fairly promising, other than the error messages.
Well, yeah, but I can't imagine that it's not something simple, but I am not an IT guy. But I know they worked on it for hours on Friday, and by the time I went home Friday night, it was locked up again. So I don't know.
Not a good start, Assist. Not a good start.
I know.
no, but hopefully it's just turbulence,
Oh, yeah.
you know?
Definitely.
Because it
It's
sounds
part
like,
of their contract to make it right though, and make it work.
and other municipalities have said that they haven't had problems with
No, they
this, so-
haven't.
Okay. So
And once
hopefully
the-
moving forward, everything's transferred.
Once the data's in there, it's pretty safe, because you can revert back to as long as you save it.
Yeah, it backs up every day. And I noticed when I left on Friday, I thought, okay, that's it, I'm just gonna shut down my computer. And usually we just disconnect and log off. So I shut it down completely. When I came back in Saturday, it was repaired. But then I worked Saturday and it locked up again. So I don't know what. It's probably something simple, but I just haven't asked the right question yet.
Well, my guess is Harold thought it was at 7. So I just texted him again and said, we're ready, and then he did dinner. So do you guys want to get started? You want to wait 3 more minutes for him? Who we wait for? Harold.
I don't care.
I think he got his time mixed up.
Oh, that's fine.
Tomorrow night at 7.
Tomorrow night is at 7.
We got it.
Mary, thank you for printing off this stuff. I really appreciate it.
Oh, sure.
I brought a couple of things that I printed up as well. One of them is a copy, the same thing that Mary provided us with. And then another one is, and I think I forwarded the email to you guys because this REMI partnership, this is the Cliff Notes version of that report. So you guys have the full report in the email that I sent you as well. And then the Colorado Petroleum Council forwarded this over to me. One side of it is the bill.
And I stumbled upon that REMI study on Friday or Saturday, I believe, and I read through the majority of it because it was very informative.
It
And
is.
boy, They do a good job on their website of projecting an independent voice, but this is an independent organization.
Right.
But I couldn't help but smell a little bit of bias in the report, so I did some digging into the actual sources.
Mhm.
And the board of directors and the donors of that REMI are all over oil and gas.
They're all,
That one's
They have heavy interest in oil and gas. So it's hard to take that seriously as an independent study, in my opinion.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But I wanted to, because it was, like I said, they do a good job on their website of making it, very transparent and independent.
I agree. There's also a letter that was sent over to me. I believe it's COGA and Colorado Petroleum Council. If you so choose to sign it, they would be appreciative. If you don't wanna sign it, don't sign it.
Was that first one?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what you're looking at there. I think I also emailed that over to you guys as well, but it came PDF, so it's not like you can just delete date and put the date in, and delete name and put the name in. So, anywho. I was gonna print out the.
Who will return it to?
Hmm?
If you do sign it, who do you return it to?
I would, I'm assuming gonna email it back to Chris McGowan, so if I haven't forwarded that over to you, I will forward it over to you. See his contact info. He is the Colorado Petroleum Council.
I ended up on the phone today with Rich from upstate Colorado, who was the gentleman who did part of the presentation we had here last month.
Rich Warner.
He was down in Denver lobbying against the bill. And we had a short discussion about their viewpoint on it, essentially. And one of the things he said is, let's not, person to person here, let's not kid ourselves, this bill is going to pass.
Right.
It's just a matter of what the final version looks like at this point. That's what we're down here fighting for.
Yeah, we've already voted against it in November, so.
That's not what you voted against it. What you voted against in November is not what's in the bill.
Pretty similar.
I don't view it that way at all.
Very, very different.
It's more restrictive.
I don't know that that's true either. But just for the history's sake, when the Colorado Gas and Oil Commission was first established, one of the very first words in its charter said that it was created to foster the oil and gas industry as its first priority. Mrs. Martinez,
It's close. It's not to say Martinez. This is a misconception.
Oh, it is?
Yes.
It's a misconception.
Martinez, okay.
Huge
So,
misconception.
All right, well, the
Martinez versus the Colorado Oil and Gas Commission is the
it
Supreme
was
Court
a Supreme
case.
Court decision that was handed down in January after the election. The court, I would say, rightfully interpreted the law that the primary function of the Oil and Gas Commission was to, as it said in its charter, promote, foster the oil and gas business.
That was changed to foster in 2016. When it was originally formed, it didn't say foster.
Okay, but that
Let
was
me read,
the
this
law.
is part of their decision to have.
Okay.
Rather, in our view, the pertinent provisions of the Act make clear that the Commission is required, 1, to foster the development of oil and gas resources, protecting and enforcing the rights of the owners and producers, and 2, in doing so, prevent and mitigate significant adverse environmental impacts to the extent necessary to protect public health, safety, and welfare, but only after taking consideration cost effectiveness and technical feasibility.
And that was the ruling of the court in January. The Senate bill, as a result of the decision of the state court, Supreme Court handed down, to modify, excuse me, the rules under which the gas commission, oil and gas commission operates, to more reflect its responsibilities to protect the health and welfare of the citizens of the state of Colorado. In doing so, the number of people on the board, there were nine commissioners on the oil and gas commission. Previously, and today is true unless it's changed, 3 of those members are from the oil and gas business. That in the bill is being reduced to 1, and additional people with expertise in wildlife and agriculture and groundwater, air pollution.
There's an environmental, a wildlife.
So they're reconstituting,
Agricultural.
they're reconstituting the makeup
Elected officials.
of the commission with less emphasis on input from the oil and gas business. That's what the Senate bill is doing. There's a whole bunch of verbiage about local control and so on and so forth.
The real issue that Rich from upstate Colorado and all the opposition that I've read, really they can't pinpoint an exact thing they don't like. It's just the ambiguity or the unintended consequences that they cite as the reason why they don't like the bill. It's not one specific thing that they're terribly uncomfortable with. It's just the amount of shalls and mays and the sort of, which it is broad sweeping power that it gives to the Colorado Oil and Gas Commission to decide on the, the issuing of permits and regulations.
Well, and who makes up I myself personally, who makes up the Colorado Oil and Gas Commission? Well, the people that are pulling this crap down in Denver, which is, to me, is a partisan issue, are gonna be trusted to put together a open-minded group of commissioners. That's part of what I, like,
Do you get
wow.
that? Do you get that from a board that's 1/3 represented by the oil industry?
No, but,
Thank you.
if we're
That's
talking
really
about a police issue, I'm going to have police officers involved in a decision, right? They're the people that work and live in that, I like the idea that there's environment, I think there needs to be a roundtable of everybody who's included, everybody who's affected, right? Environmental, public health, safety, oil and gas. I think that part's.
So the current makeup of the commission is 7 members?
I think it's 9.
It's
No,
9.
they're taking it from 7 to 9.
Or they're taking
I'm
it.
taking it from
That's how
9 to
I-
7. I'm taking it from 9 to 7.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
You got it the opposite.
I think this bill's up better. I don't like it. It's just not right.
Maybe it's that hard, we don't use it very much, I'll just unplug everything.
What part?
On the-
Oh.
Oh, that smells garlic.
Yeah, no, me too.
And laugh, that's all it takes too. Delicious.
It's not in the sauce.
Oh, no, I saw cloves in there.
Those are
The
yours.
keyboard died.
That's all I'm gonna say, the rest of it's all
I have a,
top secret.
oh, I bet that doesn't connect
It's
to.
okay. It's okay. It doesn't matter. Ultimately, that's when we're there. I see your point, though. I mean, it's certainly a valid point. There needs to be experts from the main industry, absolutely. But if we're going back to change, we're gonna change the direction of the Colorado Oil and Gas Conservation Commission to more support the public health and safety, then you have to add more public health and safety members to the commission to make that happen.
Yeah. Okay, it says the 9-member commission currently includes 3 members who must have, I'm reading directly off of the bill, who must have substantial experience in the oil and gas industry, and 1 member who must have training or experience in environmental or wildlife. Section 8 reduces the number of industry members to 1 and requires 1 member with training or substantial experience in wildlife protection, 1 member with training or substantial experience in environmental protection, 1 member with training or substantial experience in technical expertise or soil conservation or reclamation, 1 member who is an active agriculture producer or a royalty owner, 1 member with training or substantial experience in public health. So I'm taking it from 9 to 7.
Then it allows for 2 appointed positions, so it's either staying at 9 or
Yes.
it's.
It's not necessarily, they're deputy directors to assist, right? Let me see, requires the director of the commission to, so the director can hire up to 2 deputy directors. Anyways, I wanted this, I wanna have this roundtable discussion with all of us because there's many feelings regarding this bill. There are absolutely many feelings regarding this bill. I did ask for the resolution to be put on the agenda for tomorrow night. The reason I asked to have it put on the, agenda is because I have citizens asking to do so. We represent them. So, I'm not willing to take it off, but I do wanna sit here and wanna talk because I don't want this to, right, we don't have to act like what's going on in Denver or Washington DC. We're better than that here. So I wanna make sure we're all on the same page, not necessarily agree, right, but we can work civilly with each other.
Well, when I brought up this point back in October when we had those, when the CML was, wanting us to
Yes.
Amendment 74.
vote, support these, and
There's
me
like
as a
3 of
personal voter, I was not supporting some of those stuff, so I brought that up, why we bring this up now. I don't support that, and I can see where maybe for the town it's a town benefit, but, that's where I don't know if it's the right place for us to bring stuff up like that, because we all have our own personal biases to it. But then after thinking about it, after that happened back in October, it doesn't matter, who supports it or who doesn't. It's a vote for record, and then if the town passes a resolution saying that they support this, bill going forward, or support this, ballot initiative, that's for the town. But for me, if I didn't support that, then I was a vote on record to say I didn't support that. So
Sure.
it doesn't really matter. It's just like, we're not gonna be able to do anything about it anyway, because what they're gonna do down at the Golden Dome is what they're gonna do, so.
Right, yeah, so to be clear, so everybody understands, if we vote to approve this resolution moving forward tomorrow night, that doesn't mean when the bill passes, we're not gonna follow the law. We have to follow the law, right? This resolution, this is my opinion, this is how I view this. I have citizens asking to put this resolution up. I have citizens feeling like oh my God, we're not being heard by any elected official, what can we do, how can we act? And yes, the proper response is contact your local legislator and senators and House of your representatives and tell them how you feel, because they're the ones that can make a difference. Us sitting right here at this dais, we can't change that. But we can, in my opinion, take how they feel and amplify their voice by saying the town of Platteville does not. We oppose this by a resolution. Obviously, that's a vote, and that's a decision that's made by the majority of this board. And certainly, I don't want anything twisted, whether you agree with the resolution or disagree with the resolution. It doesn't mean you're anti or oil and gas, one or the other. I don't think that needs to be painted that way. But in my opinion, I feel like amplifying their voice, I think, is absolutely appropriate. It will, or it has the potential, right? It may, it shall, it, has the potential to absolutely change our budget. And Platteville relies on oil and gas heavily. Right. And we're working with economic development to try and change that, right? Because we all know oil and gas goes up and down, right? So we're working to change that. We're working to make that better. But we are heavily supported in this community, in this county, by oil and gas.
Well, most of our citizens
work.
You know, if oil and gas went out of Colorado, we'd lose half our citizens in this town. They'd have to move and go where the job is, you know, so I don't think we can afford to do that either. Didn't oil and gas say that they were gonna be here another 3 years, then they were out of Colorado?
Yes, I've heard that, after 112, I've heard from bigwigs saying, after the whole 112 thing went down last year, they're only planning on being here for 2 years anyway.
Well, they can,
Now.
the oil's always gonna be down there, so they can take what they can now and wait till the political climate has changed and come back again.
Absolutely.
So that, they can make money in other places, is their attitude.
It's just
So,
like
but-
developers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
We'll come back to Platteville when
we can't make that money somewhere else.
Right, yeah, we can, so that's why, for
they can.
Yeah.
the town, it's important to support,
Right.
to have a resolution that we.
I mean, they brought us out of the
oppose,
red. They brought us into the black.
Well, how much, I know Troy handed us and I apologize, I was gonna be prepared with all these numbers, but Troy handed us a sheet with the total number of grants that he has successfully gotten from DOLA, which specifically comes from the oil and tax severance, yeah. And it's a huge amount of, it's a huge number, and it comes from oil and gas. I mean, that affects, and the biggest thing here is, for me, is this is what citizens are calling. There's what, they're texting me, they're tagging me on Facebook, they're,
Well, that's what they elected us to do, is represent.
be their voice, yeah. And that's my opinion, that's how I see this.
Exactly, I mean, we wouldn't be here without the citizens. And we're here to represent them.
So you all know, I know, I've talked to every one of you on the phone. Tomorrow is probably going to be incredibly busy here. I'm gonna work with Mary and see how I can word appropriately without putting us at any kind of jeopardy. We wanna hear from the citizens. We appreciate oil and gas being here. We appreciate there's gonna be one in Evans too, so there's gonna be a lot of people down there. We need to hear from our citizens, because we represent our citizens. We don't represent people outside of this town.
And that's
So-
the majority of the people that have clicked the attend box on the Facebook event will be from outside of Platteville in the audience.
Well, I'm not gonna go based on what I see on Facebook
I
for
know.
that, you know. What's that?
That's encouraging.
Well,
What's that?
if we're gonna give them opportunity, we always say state your name and your address, so.
Yep, yes, yep. So, I don't want anyone to think they don't have a voice when they come into this room, and I don't want anyone feeling like they're not welcome, but we represent Platteville. So, like I said, I'll work with Mary to make sure that that's beautified, if you will. But yeah, it's gonna be, there's gonna be a lot of people here.
So where did they get the idea that none of us are for this oil and gas?
I do
I
not
mean,
have.
who have they called besides Adrian? Nobody's called them.
Well,
I haven't seen it.
we already did this back,
Yeah.
before the election,
Right.
stating that we were for it.
So I don't understand where they're getting that some of us aren't for it, because I've
Well,
never
there's
gotten
a lot of
call.
spurious arguments on
Yes.
both sides of the issue. So to have the board's position exaggerated doesn't come as any surprise either.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Shouldn't.
what I was told when I was called, Hope, what I said, not what I was told, they asked for the staff. And the specific, citizen, I said, just, we're not messaging on Facebook, and just call me. So, when they called me, I said, look, I'm more than happy to put this on the agenda, something similar to LaSalle's resolution, but we need citizens there. We need to know that what we're doing is for the citizens. Therefore, we need citizens here. How that can be taken, you know,
So,
twist
I
and
guess
turn.
why would we have people that are not citizens of Platteville showing up if there's no,
Because,
they're just supporting
I
to
think-
influence us?
well, I think right now, this is a really huge emotional battle, right? Because it's dealing with people's livelihoods. And so I think people are fuzzing, this is my opinion, I think people are fuzzing the lines between, we can make a change, because I've also seen somebody post on Facebook, literally, well, what can we do about it now? Well, the answer from one of our citizens was, well, we're gonna take this locally. LaSalle just passed this resolution, we're working on Platteville now, Meade is gonna pass it, so on and so forth. When we get all the small towns to pass it, we can shut this bill down. I responded to that and said, to be clear, no. No, that is not what this is. To me, this is, we're amplifying your voice, but literally it has no effect on this bill. Literally.
Which to me brings up the question as to whether or not the discussion by this board of a pending state bill is the appropriate venue for anybody to discuss it, if citizens or the board alike.
Well, it calms the citizens down,
Well,
number one.
You know, I didn't run for office with the idea that I was gonna dispense warm and fuzzy to anybody who got
Neither did I.
agitated. You know, and I can't make them any promises that the oil and gas business will be here or not be here.
Right.
But by making this resolution, this goes to this house, right?
No.
This doesn't go anywhere to the state, it just
Doesn't
stays
go
here locally.
anywhere.
So I mean,
No,
how are we notifying?
It puts these
It
people
tells
right
the
here on
community that
record
we are
as
against this
to
bill.
how we voted on it,
Yeah.
and that's all.
And maybe Lori saying, or John Cook can go to the, like, hey, these communities in my county are against this, and they can use that as a talking point, but it's not gonna change
No.
the process of what's going on down there.
Right,
There are votes in the House and the Senate and the state legislature to pass this,
Yeah.
and a governor that will sign it. Let's be clear about that. This is going to become law, may be amended a little bit here and there, but in fact, it's gonna become law this spring. And what this board says or doesn't say about it is frankly isn't gonna make any difference.
It really isn't. But it'll all.
I mean, if it makes you feel better to vote against it, then I guess that's what you do. But
We don't have to say, it's all
it's not ours to say.
embodied.
You know,
Yeah,
we're not
we don't have
state,
any-
we're not in the state house.
And I thought this was gonna go like LaSalle, Evans, all our initiations will go, or resolutions will go to the House, and then that'd be our citizens' voice, but it doesn't even go that
No.
far.
I mean,
It
they
could,
can use
it
it
could.
as a talking
They can
point.
use it, yeah.
Okay, so I mean, it is a conglomerate of the citizens.
Well, they could say that the small towns, you know, are opposing this bill,
But it's still
but
going
I don't know
to
if it's gonna make a difference.
Right.
We understand it's gonna pass, just the way
Right.
the deck
Absolutely
is
it's gonna
stacked,
pass.
but
It-
our opposition is showing that we are opposing this bill passing.
Right.
And
And
pretty-
79 cents, get your cup of coffee at 7-Eleven.
Well, we would, in my opinion, we'd be amplifying the citizens' voices, the majority of the citizens in town, we'd be amplifying their voices, and,
How are you sure you're referencing a majority? Have you talked to a majority of the citizens in town?
well, I know a majority of the citizens, or a lot of, I probably shouldn't say majority, I know a lot of citizens in town that, yeah, they're very concerned about this.
I just look at some of the data I pulled out from the amount of citizens who actually work in the industry, and we're talking about less than 25%.
Where did they get their data from?
I've tried to pull it from multiple locations because I don't believe this data.
So oil and gas is
Well,
only
it-
25% of our town?
Yeah.
But it's
No.
bigger impact, because the people that work in oil
We're
and
talking
gas.
about people, our citizens who work in that industry.
Oh,
Less than 25%.
But how many people work in this town who are directly affected by oil and gas?
Yeah,
Like,
Indirect
I-
effect.
Right, like the FR store, he doesn't work in oil and gas, but he makes his money selling
Right.
to the oil and gas
Right.
industry. But then the second point for me, besides amplifying citizens' voices, is we are telling the energy companies who support us and our budget that, hey, we support you.
Yeah, we have the main company right here, and if we don't support it, we're just telling them like, hey, yeah, thanks for being here, but we really don't support you.
I guess what I was getting at there is just how are we gonna get our resolution, our voice heard of a large, as a county? I mean, cause all these towns, it sounds like are gonna be passing or
That's where we
stating
get
resolutions that
Senator
you're
Cook.
Well-
insinuating, would you go to like Barb, Commissioner?
We'll have-
I mean, and then that would be-
Even Barb can't do anything about this, even our commissioners. I mean, they can go and they can testify just the same as any one of us or any citizen in this town, they can go testify at these hearings. However, it is up to our senators and our House representatives to change this. And both of our Platteville senator and representative are strongly against this.
Right.
So we can continue to tell them that we are, but they're fighting the fight we're telling them to fight.
Well, in this meeting tomorrow, then, direct them to head up the capital.
Absolutely, yeah, I'll
Yeah,
provide
because
with, I'll provide.
We'll
with-
stand where we
Let's
stand.
make sure we have the
but-
context for Senator Cook and.
Well, that's the
for-
more appropriate action for the citizens, if they wanna have
Yeah,
their voices heard.
to our representatives.
Call the
They're gonna
State House.
they're gonna go after the easy prey, which is us, and they're gonna
Right.
Well,
make their voices heard here,
Well,
but
but it's
we need to
ineffective.
be here to, I know, but we need to be here, they need somebody to talk to, per se, on this aspect, this. And then when they get done, they get the load off, say, okay, we are standing, this is our position, this is our resolution, but in order to get this thing heard more, people need to show up at the Capitol
Mhm.
and oppose it. So, I mean, I don't know, I mean, I agree on our stance, or the proposed stance with the resolution, but I just don't see how
Well,
this is gonna affect any change. I mean, it's, like I said, hard to
Before
say.
Realistically, it's not.
Right,
Well, I
before
know,
the discussion
but-
happens, I'll make it clear too, because there's a lot of education that needs to happen. I'll make it clear, again, working with Mary, by us passing this resolution, it does absolutely nothing legally for this bill. It does nothing. We still have to follow law. We still have to do what the bill says.
I understand. We're just doing a stance to put our citizens at ease and they carry on.
Well, and, you know, there's an educational piece there, right? I think that's important for us to pass on.
The education about the
We should have a-
makeup of the new oil and gas commission, is that what you speak of when you're talking about this education?
No, I'm talking about the people, we as town
we
town
don't-
elected officials, we have no control over this.
Right.
So they need to contact their,
Oh,
well,
that.
yeah, their their
You're talking about
senators.
Yeah, that's-
education and directing
it's-
them, educating them in the direction they need to go.
It's almost a juxtaposed position, just to hear you say that. As the town, we have no control over this bill's gonna pass, which is going to give us control over this. Right, when this bill passes, it will then give us control to regulate our
That's what they're
municipalities.
trying to
But
tell you,
for
but
the
we're
law.
not going to be able to.
That's what I read in the bill, that's how it reads.
That's what I read in it too.
Absolutely.
There's a certain degree of
You're
local
not enforcing
control.
Well, and I have communication with some of our representatives down at the Capitol, and she said, even on Facebook, she just posted that she just talked to the writer of the bill, said that it's not gonna give local, control.
Explain that, if you will, Troy.
This is what she just put on Facebook this afternoon.
This is a Republican representative?
This is what we're saying from Frederick. She said if the oil and gas reverts back to the recent criteria they adopted on February 19, 2019, requiring 2,500 foot setbacks, the prime sponsor of Senate Bill 181 just admitted in committee that local government or county cannot adopt less restrictive regulations. So it's not local control, it's boulder control. And it sounds like Proposition 112 to me is what she said.
But that 2,500 foot setback is nowhere found in this bill.
Yeah, when was that adopted?
1,500 now, isn't it?
There is no setbacks in this bill. They do not talk about setbacks.
You don't talk about setbacks
And
at all,
112 was gonna change setbacks.
from 500 or
So if you
1,000.
want to
From
combine
500.
two pieces of legislation and make it sound worse, then that's what you can do right there. But if you want to talk about facts, then this legislation does not do anything for setbacks. It's not the same as
Well-
112.
And the 2,500 foot is nowhere to be found.
No.
No, absolutely not. And,
Yes.
well, but by giving local control, they can set setbacks wherever they want, but that's where we would
So
come in
what
and
is
decide.
local control though? What defines that? Is it based on what the Oil and Gas Commission says?
Inside your town limits.
Yeah,
Well,
so county, municipality,
So we can say, okay, yeah, we allow it to have up to 1,500 feet of whatever. And
Well-
they're gonna say, okay, you okay with that, or they can't give us the license or the permits to do it.
that reads, that's where all the ifs, mays, and shalls come in, right?
Right.
This is gonna be in court for a number of years to come, regardless of what passes as well. Both sides are gonna bring it to court.
Oh, yeah.
If for no other reason than the ambiguities involved. and some parts that are just flat out contrary to other portions of the bill. So unless they completely rewrite it, they can expect it's gonna be in court for years. Which makes full employment for attorneys anyhow.
That's good for them.
Well, that's, who do you think's writing this stuff?
Yeah.
In the first place.
Yeah, for sure.
I've prepared some remarks. It's gonna take me a few minutes to get through them. If you guys would oblige me, I'd love it. So, in regards to this resolution, in October, we considered a resolution opposing Proposition 112. At that time, we passed it begrudgingly, and when a following resolution against Amendment 74 was brought forward to the board, which would potentially put the town in crosshairs for legal battles over land use concerns, we tabled the discussion, as the consensus of the board was that we should not / were not comfortable weighing in on such matters. I believe the proposed resolution falls into the same category as that. But in regards to my opinion on the proposed Senate Bill 181, I have the following to say. According to CML, the duty of an elected official is to have your eye towards the future. It is the town staff and the manager's job to get in the weeds and handle the day-to-day operations. The trustee's responsibility is to make sure the town has a future and a chance to prosper in 10, 20, even 50 years from now. It can be equated to the mindset of a good parent, equipping our children to have the tools to succeed in the future, when we are no longer around to hold their hands and pick them up when they fall. It is with that mindset that I support Senate Bill 181. Greenhouse gases occur naturally and are essential to the survival of humans and millions of other living things. By keeping some of the sun's warmth from reflecting back into space and making Earth livable. But after more than a century and a half of industrialization, deforestation, and large-scale agriculture, quantities of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere have risen to record levels not seen in 3 million years. As populations, economies, and standards of living grow, so do the cumulative level of greenhouse gas emissions. There are some basic, well-established empirical scientific links. The concentration of greenhouse gases in the Earth's atmosphere is directly linked to the average global temperature on Earth. The concentration has been rising steadily, and the mean global temperatures along with it since the time of the Industrial Revolution. The most abundant greenhouse gas, accounting for 2/3 of greenhouse gases, is carbon dioxide, which is largely a product of burning fossil fuel. There is alarming evidence that important tipping points leading to irreversible changes in major ecosystems in the planetary climate system may already have been reached or passed. Ecosystems as diverse as the Amazon rainforest and the Arctic tundra may be approaching thresholds of dramatic change through global warming and drying. Mountain glaciers are in alarming retreat, and the downstream effects of reduced water supply in the driest months will have repercussions that transcend generations. According to a report published by 13 U.S. government agencies in the late 2018, climate change has already cost the United States $350 billion over the past decade, and that number is expected to rise to $35 billion per year by 2050. According to the American Lung Association, Weld County perennially receives the grade of F for air quality consistently. After many years of failing to meet the EPA's threshold, we, along with 9 other Front Range counties, are expected to be downgraded to serious non-attainment status. The downgrade means stricter regulations are in Colorado's future, according to Mike Silverstein, the director of the Regional Air Quality Council in Denver. The 2 primary sources of ozone-causing emissions are the oil and gas industry and fossil fuel burning vehicles. The oil and gas industry is the largest source category of emissions, mainly because it's such a large industry with such a large footprint. Just like a lot of vehicles together makes up the second biggest source category. I'd also like to remind you that Weld County does not have a burning metropolis, yet we've maintained an F rating on our air quality. I hear a lot of people in the oil and gas, and including some in this chamber tonight, who cite Colorado's already strict regulations as good enough, don't touch it approach. Based on the dire situation our planet finds itself in due to climate change, our dismal air quality, and in light of recent state court rulings, I beg to differ. In the case Mr. Clark referenced earlier, Martinez versus the Colorado Oil and Gas Conservation Commission, which was ruled on in January 2019, the Colorado Supreme Court ruled fostering development of oil and gas outweighed potential safety and environmental impacts. House Bill 181 has language which reverses these two provisions and puts the Colorado Oil and Gas Conservation Commission structure more in line with how all government agencies should be. Advocates of the people and public welfare first, and not just defending corporate interest. I'm under no illusion that this bill is perfect, and I do know the need and role oil and gas serves in both heating our homes and empowering this economy. But money cannot be the reason we allow health and well-being of our town citizens today, and especially of those in the future to suffer a doomed fate on an uninhabitable planet. I challenge all of us to look for ways to diversify our local economy, become less dependent on oil and gas, and find ways in our personal lives to reduce the use of fossil fuels. Small changes can add up to a big difference. And I found this quote from a Chinese philosopher, Lu Sao. If you do not change direction, you may end up where you are heading. I feel that's very fitting for this situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Spencer. I hope you include that in the public session tomorrow evening. Please. Your comments, Diane?
I plan to.
Excellent.
So I would ask that we table this discussion tomorrow night. We let the people have their say, and then we talked about what we talked about, that the town really has no business weighing in on this. It has no effect on what's going to happen in the state legislature. And we go the way that we did on the resolution for Amendment 74, and we table it indefinitely.
I would agree with that. This is really a bigger question, as you alluded to, than the economy of Platteville or Colorado or what have you. This is about life on Earth and changes that are coming, whether anybody likes it or not. And anytime historically there's been, whether it's a new technology or a change in the way life is conducted, it always creates a large degree of social and economic upheaval among citizens. My favorite analogy is buggy whip makers who believe to their dying breath that horseless carriages would never catch on, except for the 17 million that were made here in the United States last year. So they kept on making buggy whips till they realized that there was no demand for their product. The oil and gas industry, by necessity, is going to have to not be a part of life on the planet, or there will be no life here. So it's a bigger question than whether or not the state legislature is going to make this regulation or that regulation, or this setback is going to be this much, or how much tax revenue the town of Platteville may or may not get in the future from the oil and gas business. It's a lot bigger question. It's a 50-year question. And I really wonder why this board is being pressed to pass a resolution to make citizens get a warm and fuzzy feeling that their life is always going to be wonderful, that they're always going to get these big checks, payroll checks from the oil and gas business, and nothing's going to change. It's all going to be just wonderful. Well, it's not going to be that way.
Well, you know, if this resolution doesn't make a difference one way or another, what's wrong with making our citizens warm and fuzzy?
Well,
I mean, really, seriously,
well, I'm not gonna lie to
difference
them.
is, I'm not gonna lie to them either.
I'm not gonna make them think that something is true when I know that it's not. I mean, so I oppose this the bill, and that makes them feel better?
Could.
And 2 months later, it's all different.
we follow the laws that are passed. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, it's
We're not
one-
gonna lie to them, we're gonna say, we have to follow the laws that are
And
passed.
if you don't wanna vote, you oppose.
I mean, let's
the
be
bill,
honest with
then
him.
You vote, that you oppose it.
Understood.
So,
And that's what this study session is all about, is to get some of the facts out on the table.
So tell them right away, this is not, if we pass this resolution, this is not gonna make a difference. If this passes in the state, we have to follow those laws.
And it's gonna pass. They have the votes.
Right.
And Mr. Bob, I remember, not to call you up, I remember you being one of the huge proponents as to why we shouldn't pass Amendment 74 resolution, was you didn't think you had any place taking it up.
well, we started down that road back in
Well, we-
October,
we
so we
tabled
went,
that.
so
We
let's just
tabled
keep
that.
on going. I
We
mean,
tabled
you
that
know,
resolution, in a large part because of your disagreement with it.
Well, I felt like we've already put it on the, already done stuff in October with the ballot initiatives, and so I don't see why doing something like this is gonna make a difference.
Right.
This is, for me, this is what the people are asking us to do. This is what they're asking us to do. You don't agree with it, vote no. But I've added it to the agenda because that's what citizens are asking me to do.
Right, they asked her to put this on the agenda. You're right, if you don't agree with it,
I have no problem telling anybody what I agree with and disagree with on this, 181. There are things in there that I like and there's things that I don't like. I like the local control aspect. If Boulder doesn't wanna drill, don't drill.
Right.
But if we wanna drill, let us drill, leave
Right.
it alone.
right,
Let us live our life. You know, I mean, there's lots, there's 29 pages or 27 pages and I've got notes all over it. Anywho, I was asked by citizens to pass this resolution or to bring this resolution to the table, and that's what I'm doing. So that's where my conflict is, that's where I sit. I was elected to do what the people say.
that's right.
And in a time right now where a lot of people feel like their elected officials aren't listening to them, I feel like we should probably, I'm going to.
I don't have a problem that they asked you to put it in front of the board, or the fact that you did. But there's a lot of aspects to this issue, a lot of subtleties that even we're not aware of.
Yeah.
And I've read the bill more times than I care to admit in the last 5 days.
Yes, sir.
Supreme Court decisions and the old law, the new law, the way it was constituted, the gas commission was originally constituted, the way it's proposed, so on and so forth. And there's parts of it that, the way it was done in the middle of a blizzard, that I find objectionable. But overall, because it's concerned with the health and welfare of the citizens, more so than it ever has been in the past, I can put a check mark next to that and live with that. Is it perfect? Far from it. Is it the final version that the court is gonna approve? Hardly. It doesn't, it won't stand up to that. But this idea that I should just roll over, play dead, and give the oil and gas business everything they want, I'm not willing to do that. This board, a couple of years ago, sat and allowed radioactive material to be stored just across the street, up on Main Street. Well, personally, having a history of working around radioactive material, those people have no credibility with me. I've been lied to too many times about the health risk, so on and so forth. But, this service company to an oil and gas company wants to have it, so we'll just give it to them. As I testified at the time, let Mikey try it. He'll eat anything. The old Life cereal commercial. Give it to Platteville. They'll eat anything. I don't buy it. You know, this idea of just playing dead for these people because they've got money. I'm not gonna sell my soul to the devil for their oil and gas money. That's ridiculous. I can't live with myself.
Well, my whole
And do that.
family livelihood was done with oil and gas, so, you know, that's where I'm sitting at too. My whole family's livelihood was oil and gas.
Well, and that's why we're entitled to have different opinions. We have different experiences, and I don't begrudge your family for that, or for you for feeling that way. You know, it's just a difference of how you see things.
You know, oil and gas is more than just, you know, gas to put in our car and oil to ship overseas. It's in the petroleum base, everything that we have, our shoes, our tires, our cosmetics, everything has petroleum in them. So it's not like, you know, people want to think about petroleum as it's just oil and gas and it's just to run our cars and vehicles. It makes a lot of our products that we have in plastics, it's in everything that we deal with every day. So I think people forget that aspect when they think about oil and gas.
Agreed.
So I think Mary made a copy of the resolution. I'm not in favor of tabling this. I understand where you, Spencer and Larry, stand. I get what you're saying, I understand. I disagree because this is what citizens want. I'm not gonna sit here and tell them that I know better than them. We're all being told that enough by our state and federal legislators. So, do we wanna go over can we go over the resolution tonight?
Sure, you can read through it.
Has everybody got a chance to read through the resolution? I know Larry had mentioned there's something in here about setbacks, and there's nothing in legislation about setbacks, but it does speak to, let me find it. Whereas it would give local governments, so it's the second paragraph on the backside, it would give local governments the ability to create larger setbacks, which can ban oil and natural gas development based on politically tinted and incorrect views about health and safety rather than scientific data about health and safety. I don't see, Larry, where that's the local municipalities, but that's the only place I see setbacks on this resolution.
What are you said there weren't any setbacks in this?
It's in the title of the resolution, at the very top, in the bold print. Setback requirements for oil and gas.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Thank you. Yeah, that needs to be struck. That's not at all correct.
And we're fine with all these assumptions of what it could, just doom and gloom.
Well, this is a resolution to oppose, so it's gonna have the negatives in it naturally.
So we need to restate this resolution opposing it. What is this the title of the bill right here, the statewide cost, or is this?
No, this is,
So what
this is the REMI's whole thing that I emailed you. This is the whole, this one right here is the Cliff Notes version of this.
Okay, but I guess we just need to take this whole part out and just.
The setback requirements.
And gas development, just say we're opposing Senate Bill 19-181.
Yeah, can we do that, right?
Just eliminate the second line of the title.
Yeah, because it does not have anything to do with setbacks, not at all.
Then that fourth paragraph too, the setback initiative would eliminate over 26 billion annually state gross domestic product. We'll leave that in there.
Wait,
No, you can't.
Fourth paragraph down.
For the same reason that there is no setback specifically in the Senate bill. Fourth paragraph.
oh
First,
yes,
they
found the
deduct
setback
eliminate
initiative would eliminate.
$26 billion. There it is right there.
So what is the REMI?
But they do say it there within 2,500 feet of it.
That's not from the bill.
It's not from the bill though.
No, that's your clip notes that you gave us,
Oh, where?
in the Remy report, the notes?
Within 25 days. Bill grants exclusive authority.
To refuse. Look at that.
So that's what.
So, that's what they're saying, it does have setbacks in it, right?
Well, that's what would flag the COGCC.
I vaguely remember hearing something there about 1,500 foot setback. I read the bill, so I don't know, but I thought I heard something when people talking about there was a 1,500 foot setback.
There is no specific footage mentioned in the Senate bill as passed by the Senate the other day. The third portion of paragraph 6, where it mentions the town of LaSalle, probably needs to be stricken as well. Isn't this a copy of what they passed,
Yes.
the LaSalle board passed?
Yes.
Sorry, I missed that one.
This language is absurd.
It's incredibly insightful. If you're trying to scare everyone, then great, here you go.
You know, some of these arguments that are made and are just, I don't think they're factual. I don't think they can be proven. They're just assumptions that somebody wants to believe is true. Hundreds of thousands of jobs and this many dollars of economic activity and so on and so forth. I think it's just speculation for the purpose of.
Last paragraph on page 1. So one size fits all blunt instrument that would create a de facto ban on oil and gas production,
Yeah.
even in communities that embrace responsible energy development. One of the leaders of Colorado Rising, the Boulder firm which put Proposition 112 on the ballot, was on NPR last week stating that this bill will do almost nothing in Weld County. Well, this essentially does not touch Weld County because how open they are to oil and gas. 9 out of 10 barrels of Colorado oil comes out of Weld County. This is not a ban. Nowhere in the legislation does it call it a ban.
No permits will be given until all the rules are finalized.
Is that a ban? It's a potentially a
If the
moratorium.
rules are finalized
We
for
talked
several
about
years,
that.
then yes. I would call it a ban.
There's revenue to be had. Those regulations will get made.
Yep.
The thing that's astounding to me is that out of how many counties there are in the state? 40, 50? There's a lot of them that don't have a dog in the fight. And 87% of the oil and gas revenue or production comes out of one county. There's certainly counties in the state that have no production, never have, and never will. But yet they get to vote on how these
Right.
people in Weld County wanna do their business. That's bothersome.
And they get to, enjoy the rewards of the tax money that comes
Well,
from.
somebody asked me the other day, if Boulder County decides that they are gonna effectively ban drilling in Boulder County, does that mean that they're going to forego the severance tax from oil and gas?
Yeah, that was our conversation. Yeah.
Of course not. Would you? Would anybody?
I'd sleep at night. Hey, we don't want marijuana in this town, therefore we don't have marijuana money in this town.
Well,
I mean, if I try to put
I don't
myself
know
on the
that
shoes
the
of,
analogy is quite accurate when you consider the health risks of oil and gas
No, but-
production versus, well, you know, one person every 90 days dies in the oil field.
but the people who are so against oil and gas don't want it, they want it banned, it's gone, it's out of here. There are other people on the other side that feel that way about marijuana. So when I'm bring those two to compare, it's because the strong feelings are comparable. So for me,
Granted, I do that.
for me, yeah, no marijuana money. I'm good with that. I can sleep with that. I wouldn't ask anybody to do anything I wouldn't
The
do.
edibles make you sleep real good.
That's called passing out.
Oh, is that what it is? That's alcohol poisoning, but
Yeah. I don't know if it maybe happened. People go crazy on it.
Harold, you've been pretty quiet over there.
I'm chewing my gummies, leave me alone.
Did you get dinner? Do you wanna get dinner?
Huh?
Did you get some dinner?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I'm just chewing the gummies. I'm trying to throw those in there. I'm a very quiet guy, haven't you been with?
Oh, not usually.
No.
You have a center feet.
I haven't heard the wolf howl at all either.
Yeah. Oh.
Well, this can be changed, it can be amended, it can be fixed. I just have that Andy, well, you had Liz, I'll email it over to you, cause what Andy sent me was a PDF, so you could look off of that.
And you still, mayor,
Martina,
how long have you been there?
I don't know.
Don't I have a term limit?
I don't know, I just talked to him the other day, and then,
I would ask that we strive to stick to more actual stated facts that come out of the bills rather than assumptions.
so,
So, what I'm getting at, it says local governments can
mhm,
establish the setbacks,
right.
but I can't find anything on.
No, there's no, the word setback does not once appear in that bill. I just did a whole page check, yeah. Not once. So that's study by REMI. I read so much in the last few days, I can't keep it all straight in my head.
Can we adjourn for 10 minutes?
He says, yes, smoke break.
You always go home and have change at the chair.
Okay.
I get how that easy.
Nothing that we're gonna do is on your time to
Really cranking on it.
everybody's got their opinions, so we'll just talk about it tomorrow and public talk to us about it and, see what their points are and then we can say what we wanna say.
It looks like something's been doing some cranking on you. Yeah.
Everybody good with that?
Yeah.
There's somebody else.
Larry, Nick,
Excuse me?
hey, can you hang on 1 second? If we adjourn the meeting altogether, can you bring that up again, Troy?
I think everybody's got their individual point of views with this, and I think there's nothing more that we can sit here, we can argue here all night about the fine print and the pros and cons of both sides, so I think we just come to the board meeting, let the public talk it.
We've already flogged this dead dog as much as we're gonna flog it tonight.
Yeah, I think so, and I think we just need to clean up the resolution, make sure it fits for what we're really doing here with it. So. I don't think we need to sit here and.
I know you keep poking, I'm not trying to pull plug out there, we keep poking at the facts, and I'm not full buy-in on the whole open ordinance, and that's just different view.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I'm just saying, give
Pollution in Weld County and through Platteville in general come from Denver. I grew up out in Bennett, but watching to the north, I can see the brown cloud, and I'm not saying it's not there, I'm not saying that's good. I can see the brown cloud starting in Denver, and the wind pushes right through and goes right up through the North Falls Valley of Platte. So I'm not a firm believer that all that pollution is created here just because of oil and gas, because it does go down that trough of Platte Valley and come right through here. And you can see it on some days, when you come over that hill there by the, by the dairy plant, you can see that cloud just
Yeah, no, we're
settling
adjourned.
down in there,
Thank you,
so.
Mary.
I'm just putting my opposition out there.